In this lab, we're going to need some potassium, lithium, sodium, calcium, and magnesium metal. We've got 3 beakers, 1 beaker with an inverted test tube, some litmus paper, and a beaker with some boiling water. I'm going to cut a piece of sodium metal, and you can see that the sodium metal, it's kept in mineral oil to prevent it from reacting with the moisture in the air, and it's kept in this darker container to prevent it from reacting with the UV light. So I'm going to cut a piece of this sodium metal, and you're going to see that when it's cut, it's actually quite soft, but it's very lustrous as well. Okay, and we're going to put a piece of that into our spot plate. So we're going to put a piece of the sodium in the water. We're going to make our observations. Once that finishes reacting, we're going to test our solution with some litmus paper. Blue stays blue and red turns blue. Okay, here's a piece of lithium. We're going to cut that as well. We're going to see that this lithium, it's a bit harder than the sodium. Okay, to cut. It's also kept in the mineral oil, but you can see that that is quite silver and lustrous, all the properties of a metal. Okay, and then we will also put that into our spot plate for our next reaction. In a fresh beaker with water, we're going to react some of the lithium . Doesn't seem to be moving as quickly or as vigorously as the sodium. So we'll make our observations and we'll test with some litmus paper. Okay, now that the reaction has finished with lithium, let's test with some litmus paper. And again, we see that the red goes blue and the blue stays blue. Okay, now I have a piece of potassium. You're going to see that when I cut into the piece of potassium, it's quite soft, but you can see there that it is lustrous and it's silver. So we're going to use a small piece. Okay, put that into our spot plate to then react. We're going to put the potassium in the water. Testing with litmus paper, and again we see the red turns blue and the blue stays blue. In this part of the lab, we need to do a technique called downward displacement. So what we've got is a beaker half filled with water and a test tube completely filled with water and a stopper. So we're going to invert that test tube into the beaker of water, and then we're going to carefully remove that stopper. There we go. And we now have a completely filled test tube with water inverted into a beaker. What we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of calcium metal, and here's a piece of calcium metal, so one of our alkaline earth metals, and we're going to drop it into the water. And we're gonna see that it's going to start to bubble there. I don't know if, there we go. And we're gonna put our test tube over top of that piece of calcium. And what should start to happen is you're gonna see some of the bubbling happening. So we're gonna displace the water and we're gonna trap the gas. So we wanna completely fill that test tube. So let's see if you can see some of that bubbling happening there. Good. So we're gonna completely collect the gas. So you can see the water is getting displaced. There we go. The reaction is starting to pick up. And we're collecting the gas. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna let that do its thing. We're gonna collect an entire test tube of gas. Now that we have the test tube completely filled with gas, we're gonna pull that out. We're gonna stopper that, and we're gonna put it into our test tube rack. So now we have a burning splint. We're gonna test the gas. After the reaction with calcium and water, let's just test the product here. Okay, and again, we're getting blue litmus paper, and we notice that this is white. It's like I've got a precipitate there as well. So our next representative alkaline earth metal is a piece of magnesium ribbon, and we've seen this before. It's silver, lustrous, malleable. Okay, we're gonna drop that into some water, and we notice there's no reaction, right? And we can see that our litmus paper doesn't turn, so we notice that there is no reaction here. So we know that if we add heat to a substance, then sometimes we can help to speed up a reaction. And I noticed by putting magnesium in hot water, there is some bubbling happening at the surface of the magnesium there. So we do get some evidence of gas being created. Okay, let's test that with litmus paper. And let's see if we get, there's a slight tint of blue coming, not a lot, but there is a bit of evidence, a little bit of blue on that red litmus paper. So looks like we are getting a bit of a reaction there.